Hello and welcome to the Nicole Mason Show, the show where we bring trailblazing women, high achieving women, women who are movers and shakers in their respective industries and vocations, women who have turned trials into triumphs, setbacks into strategies for success, women who will let you know that you too can make it. And I'm so excited today to have this awesome, beautiful sister, my awesome and amazing accountability partner, Folashade Butler. And I want to start out by reading a little bit of her bio. She has an extensive bio, but I want to just read a little bit of it. She's a speaker, relationship coach, and champion, woman in tech, and owner of Love and Livelihood, a community designed to help people effectively navigate the intersection of love, life, and everything in between. She specializes in helping high potential, high achieving women maximize their personal and professional success through life changing trainings, teachings, and talks. After spending years as a technology consultant, Folashade decided to take her skills as a connection catalyst to pursue her own dream of helping those who have challenges with establishing the right connections, working in diverse environments, and showing up uniquely and authentically. She has been interviewed and featured in media outlets including Good Morning America, askmen.com. I'm sure that was interesting. Glamour. And she has also been on the TEDx stage to share her perspective on an overlooked and underrated relationship pillar in her first talk. We all have an effing problem. Woo! We're going to talk about that. Wife of a king, mother of four royals. I love that. Folashade loves all things sparkly and is a self-proclaimed cupcake connoisseur. When she's not spending time with her family, you can find her on her online shopping or binge watching her favorite TV shows. Oh my goodness. Folashade Butler, my AP, my awesome and beautiful sister. Welcome to the Nicole Mason Show.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, I'm so excited about our time because we have so much to cover. And I want to start by just thanking you for being who you are, how you show up in the earth. So let's start out talking about your company and what you do around relationships and helping high potential, high achieving women make the right connections, and not just in their careers, but also in their love lives.
Yes.
Talk about how you started that and why you started it.
That is an excellent question, and I'm glad that we're starting with that because what I have learned over the last several years in my own pursuits, in my own marriage, in the things that I have been called to do is that I really have a connection, a draw to love and how it relates to our well-being and
Mhm.
what I call our livelihood. And so the reason why I started Love and Livelihood, which started out as a podcast, is because I realized that even in my own pursuit, even in my own marriage, in my own relationships, I have a hard time distinguishing the two. It's
Mhm.
usually a combination. So, when people say work life balance,
Mhm.
when it's really just life balance, it's the
Yeah.
same thing. Love is really part of your livelihood, livelihood is really part of your love. And
Mhm.
so I wanted to bring awareness and start the discussion around how we can make better choices and integrate our love lives with our work lives. And so what I've done is I've had conversations with several people. I've talked to entrepreneurs, career professionals, of all sorts, doctors, lawyers, and I gained a lot of knowledge and a lot of wealth around what people are doing, both single, married, and people in between, trying to figure it out. And just started drawing the best case scenarios, the best advice, the things that people have learned throughout their journeys, and just started sharing that more outwardly because people need it. People are really trying to figure this thing out together. We're all in this together. Nobody has the right solution. Nobody has the right answer every single time, but together we can figure it out. And so that's where that
Yeah,
came out.
I think that's powerful. And I think you're onto something just so awesome and amazing because it is true. You know, when you have love in your life, it does give you the confidence to really try a whole lot of different things. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have that. But it does make a difference. You know, I can speak for myself. I've been with my husband is 35 years. I cannot
Ooh, praise
believe that
God.
35 years last month in December, but you know, we grew up together. I was
Right.
17, he was 18 when we met, and you know, now 52, 53.
That's okay.
But I've been able to accomplish so much because of the love that I have, the support that I have, the push that I have. So I think that you are onto something so powerful, you know, to really talk about how it impacts us, you know,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
not just love, you know, from with a partner, but also love from family. We would started out talking
Exactly.
about, you know, your mom and your dad, of course, but you know, your mom, her presence is just so powerful. And just through the pictures, I'm like, I want to meet mom. I want to meet her. You know, and I too had an awesome and amazing mother. My mom passed when she was 57, died young. But the impact and the imprint she had on my life is who makes me who I am today, you know,
Absolutely.
powerful and bodacious and all these other adjectives.
All of
So,
the above. Yes,
right,
ma'am.
right. And so tell me, you know, how has your own love life impacted all of these great things that you've been able to do so far in your life?
Yeah, great question. So first of all, let me just say that I met my husband when I was 17. I was 17, he was 19.
Mhm,
So we've now known each other for nearly 20 years. We've been married for 11. It was 11 in October. We have
mhm,
four amazing kids. And to your question, how has this impacted my life? Let me just say, one of the best decisions, one of the most important decisions that you will ever make in your life is who you choose to do life with, who you choose to
mhm,
spend the rest of your life with. And what I have learned is even though we go through our own trials and tribulations,
mhm.
just to be clear, we
Yeah.
have our own stuff, right?
Mhm,
But what I can say about my husband is that he is definitely a supporter. He encourages me. He helps me. He's down with the kids right now.
yeah. Yeah.
And I honestly cannot imagine myself doing life with anybody else because he's just been such a great presence in my life. And and I'm the same way for him. Whatever his dreams and his goals and his aspirations are, my job as his helper is to support him and to encourage him and to show him how I think that we can make this, small little thing grow into something bigger if it's available. And so what I
Mhm,
think, when I talk about relationships and how it can be impactful or how it can help your long-term goals, that's what I mean. Who you choose
mhm.
to spend your life with can really make or break it.
Yeah.
Who because what I remember growing up, I have two sisters.
Mhm,
My parents are both Nigerian. They came from Nigeria, raised my sisters and I here in the DC area.
mhm.
And one of the things my dad would always say to us, three girls, he didn't have any sons, but he would always say, you don't want to go through high school, do well. You don't want to go through college, do well. You don't want to get a good job in the world and do well just to have a man ruin your life.
Woo.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I will never forget it. And so for me, I took that to heart.
Mhm,
It's very important for me to make good decisions. It was very important for me to make good decisions about who I choose to spend my time with and ultimately who I chose to marry. And so those are the same kinds of things that I want people, men, women, and of course my own children to understand. You don't want to have all these milestones in your life be so glorious, so victorious, so awesome just to end up with the wrong person and have a miserable life. It doesn't
yeah.
add up.
That's wow. That is so powerful. And you know, I can also speak to the fact that having a father and father figure to really speak and impart that kind of wisdom into your heart and into your life makes a tremendous difference. You know, I married a man that's so much like my father. Sometimes it's scary. I was a daddy's girl, and so I know too that really taken to heart, like you said, take that wisdom to heart and how it makes such a difference and such an impact on you. But and I just want to put a plug right here. I think that you probably need to write a book around that, just that saying, because how impactful is that thought? You don't want to do well and just run into the wrong person and they just ruin your life. And
Yeah.
you and I both know that that has happened to many people,
Yeah.
In my practice of law, I've seen it happen.
Right.
I love to watch my law shows, but I've seen it firsthand where you find young women who are in a situation that the parents didn't even see it coming,
Yeah.
didn't even see it coming.
Yeah.
And so I really appreciate you sharing that, because that's powerful. Share, how has your company been received, when you've gone out to talk with people as a keynote speaker, and all of these different places that you've had opportunity to share
Yeah.
this thought. Talk about some of the ways people have received it, because I know not everybody wants to hear that, like, I know what I'm doing.
It's interesting because, in my place of work, so I do also have a very thriving career as a technology professional, as you read in my bio. And so, for a very long time, I kept it separate. I kept my business away from my business, right?
Sure.
So, um, and I work for a big four company. So doing really well in terms of the trajectory that I have for a career path.
Mm-hmm.
And so having this other thing, which I would call my passion, which I would call my calling,
Mm-hmm.
I just, I always kept it quiet. I always kept it away from everybody. And then I just started talking about it more. Hey, I'm a relationship coach, I'm a premarital counselor.
Mm-hmm.
And you would not believe how many people in the workplace are like, well, I need your services. I need to talk to you. Are you taking on clients such and such? And so, believe it or not, people really do want advice.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of the reason why love and livelihood makes sense, right? Because livelihood is such a big part of your life. You go to
Yeah.
work, you wake up, you do your work. You have this agenda that you have to do, but that is not it's not different from your life. The
Mm-hmm.
things that you have, the people that you have to engage with at home, your spouse, your kids, your parents, whomever, and
Mm-hmm.
finding that those synergies are really important. So people are actually looking for ways and tools and tips on how to improve. And then
Yeah.
of course there's a category of single people who really just want to know, like, what am I doing, how do I
Mm-hmm.
make room for a love life, a personal life? How do I not make work just the only thing that I do? And
Yeah.
so when I have these conversations, both in my workplace, when I'm invited to talk to groups of women or groups of
Mm-hmm.
professionals, it oftentimes is a very easy conversation, very well received, because people are looking for how to figure out that balance and how to improve on their love and their livelihood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's good. Well, that's good. That's good, because as soon as you start talking, I was like, okay, yeah, they're receiving, but how many people actually apply what
Apply
you
it.
say? And I come from a ministry background, so sometimes maybe it's just the setting. When you're telling people about certain parts of their lives, it's like, no, I understand, I know what I'm doing, and in reality,
They
no, you
don't.
don't. So yeah, so that's good. I'm glad that the people are seeking you out and they are
Yeah.
receptive to hear what you
You're,
have
I
to
mean, but what you're right though. Like, it's one thing to hear the information, but it's really the application of it. And so, our jobs are to tell people, encourage them, give them advice. And the truth of the matter is, we cannot own other people's lives. They really have to apply that wisdom and that knowledge to their day to day. And we can do our best to, yeah, do it with love, do it with tough love,
say. Mhm.
but ultimately, people have to take responsibility for their own lives and how they choose to use the information we give them.
Absolutely. That is so true. That is so true. And so now I have to shift gears. You recently had your twins. They are adorable.
Thank you.
And big brother and big sister are just amazing and just all over them. And I love to see
They are.
your pictures on social media.
Thank
But
you.
something happened to you that has also added to an initiative that's really important. And I want you to share with the audience
Yeah.
what happened to you and how you are doing something about this most important matter that we are not talking about as much as we should be in this country.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that. So yes, I have four kids, 7, 5, and 2 1-year olds. And just to clarify, because I think when my story went viral last year, and it's still circulating, which is crazy, a whole year later. Um, I think when the story went viral, people assumed that my health, I was in poor health, or something completely drastic had happened. And this is the drastic part. What happened was I had seen my doctor at my 37-week appointment. Now, for twins and multiples, typically 37 weeks is full term.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in the appointment leading up to that point, what my doctor always did with all my other pregnancies, we would just schedule induction dates just to have them
Okay.
on the calendar.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went into that appointment that day, feeling fine generally, and it was September 29th, and I was due on October 17th, which would have been full term 40 weeks. She
Mm-hmm.
already said, I don't expect you to get to the 17th. I didn't expect it, but I expected to get into the October month. So at
Okay.
that point, what, 2 or 3 days away?
Mm-hmm.
And so I went into my appointment, and she noticed that my blood pressure was elevated. She noticed that I had swollen feet. I'm at what they call advanced maternal age. So I was 35 at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and just all these things that she's just like checking the box. She's like, ah. And so she goes, I'm gonna have to deliver you today. Or she said, I'm gonna have to deliver you tomorrow. And I said, absolutely not. I said, we're only a couple of days away from October. And the reason, and this is so, silly, but it was important for me. But my other kids were born in October. My anniversary is in October. And so
Uh-huh.
I had this whole thing in my head. I wanted my
Right.
kids to be born in October, the
Mm-hmm.
twins to be born in October. And so she goes, I have to deliver you tomorrow because you have all these things that
Mm-hmm.
are telling me that any longer you could develop preeclampsia.
Mm-hmm.
And what I appreciated about my doctor is that she is very straightforward. She's definitely a tough love kind of woman where she knows that you want something, but she's going to do what makes most sense in the
Exactly.
situation. She's both a Christian and she's about medicine. So I trusted her. I trusted her. I walked out of that appointment and I was a little bit disappointed because I was like, I'm not going to make it to October, but it is what it is. Whatever God
Right.
wants. So
Right.
I leave the appointment after a couple of hours because she had me in there for 2, maybe 3 hours, which is long
Yeah.
compared to all the other appointments.
Mm-hmm.
And I go to meet with a colleague for dinner, pull up to the restaurant, walk out of my car, and my water broke
Wow.
right there in front of Nat Stadium. My water
Right.
breaks, and so I immediately call and text my doctor, and I said, my water just broke. I think my water just broke. I need to come back." Um, Texted my husband, who was with the kids. He had to go get the kids, get them settled, and then run to the hospital. And I remember driving myself to the hospital with my water. It's just all over the car.
Yeah.
But what was very critical in those moments, keep in mind this was during COVID, so this was
Mhm.
2020, where you couldn't have family, you couldn't have extra
Right.
people. I mean, it was just by the grace of God that they allowed my husband in. But I remember looking up at the clock and I said, God, I don't want to be here all night.
Mhm, mhm.
Please make this thing go very quickly. And with the other pregnancies that I've had, my other babies, I delivered in the labor and delivery room. But in this situation, I had to be taken to the operating room.
Wow,
Um, yeah, and so for me, it was very sterile, very cold, just a
it's
different
scary.
environment, and
Yeah.
scary, and scary. But I trusted, that my doctor had everything under control, which she did.
Sure.
I didn't have any like major issues because remember, just hours before, she was concerned that my blood pressure and my swollen feet were going to be problematic. But I
Right.
delivered naturally. I didn't have any. I usually I don't ever never got an epidural, so I delivered without the epidural.
Hmm.
Both twins vaginally, and it was fine. I did have a moment of panic though,
Hmm.
where I was just like, I can't do this. I won't. I don't know how to do it. I'm tired. I'm hungry. I'm physically spent. And in that moment, this is where maternal care meets humanity. She held
Hmm.
my hand. My doctor held my hand, and she said, "You can and you will do this. You've done this
Hmm.
before. Don't worry." And so push those babies out. They're 9 minutes apart because that was another scary part. I was like, does it usually take this long? In between the babies.
Hmm.
And it was fine. And so I just thank God for that experience
Hmm.
because my experience is totally different from people who have just one kid,
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
baby at a time.
Mhm.
And because the story went viral, because of the nature of all the things that I just described, um, the maternal care, maternal health outlets picked it up
Yeah.
because one of the things that we're having to deal with in this country and probably around the world is how Black women are
Mhm.
treated
Mhm.
when they have signs like the ones I had. My doctor could have sent me on my way and said, you just deal with it.
Mhm.
Don't worry about it. But she didn't. And she is a Black woman and I appreciate it. I appreciate having her. But there are other doctors in the world, both Black and not Black, who would have just discarded it and just left me, let me do whatever it is. Thankfully, my water did break on its own. But there are countless women who don't even get the opportunity to experience the thing that I did.
Yeah.
Either they lose their child in the process or they lose their own lives.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
No, I'm just go ahead. I'm just taking it in,
Yeah.
because you are a speaker, you're a good storyteller. So I feel it. I feel the emotion associated with it. No, so go ahead. I'm sorry.
No problem. No, I'm very grateful that I have been able to share that story. I shared it with the March of Dimes. I did a short story that's going to be at a film festival, the Sundance Film Festival.
Mhm.
But this is a story that if you look at my situation and then you compare to a woman who didn't have such a great outcome,
Yeah.
starkly different.
Mhm.
And I think it's just very imperative for us, whether you are a maternal health advocate day to day, or if you're just a woman or a Black woman or a person who cares about women, it's just important for us to, rally around this cause because there are people in the world who really are struggling.
Yeah.
And there are healthcare providers who just don't understand how to be healthcare providers and human beings.
Mhm.
And so we need to get to a point in this country and even around the world where we are taking very seriously how Black women are treated, especially when it comes to delivering their babies, the pregnancy process, and then, of course, delivering their babies, because that's where we're losing a lot of our women.
Yeah, I tell you, I feel that I'm so impacted and was so impacted by your story, because I attended a program at Harvard as it relates to diversity and inclusion, and the professor, who is awesome, he just talked about this hierarchy that in the world as it relates to white men, white women, and going on down, Black
Yep.
men. And then at the bottom of the totem pole, in
Yep.
particularly as it relates to healthcare,
Yeah.
that Black women are at the bottom. And, just to realize that, and like you said, sometimes people, they don't know how to advocate for themselves. They don't have, a really, attentive provider.
Right.
And so it really can be hard on so many fronts.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad that you have someone who, was really attentive to you and knows you and knows all of the factors that she was looking for to say,
Yep.
no, we got to be watching this. And
Yep.
so, what do you hope to gain with sharing this story on all of these different platforms, it going viral? What do
Yeah.
you hope will happen as as a result of that?
Yeah, it's exactly what you said. I think ultimately what I would pray for is two things. First, that women and people in general, doesn't matter what the health situation is, but people know to advocate for themselves.
Mhm.
And I know a lot of times it's easier said than done because, I'm not in the medical field. So I don't necessarily know what to look for, but I know how I feel when there's a situation
Yeah.
going on in my body. And so if you feel like you have something that doesn't sit well, that isn't normal, is a red flag, even if it's a yellow flag,
Mhm.
I would, bring it up with your provider, bring it up with your doctor, learn the signs. I know we are all doctors, Dr. Google, we go and
Yeah.
start searching. And oftentimes doctors don't want you to do that because you can read a bevy of things that may not be correct.
Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with just being informed,
Mhm.
and then once you're informed enough, go and ask the questions.
Mhm.
I remember when I was in, my first couple of pregnancies, I would go into my doctor's office and I would literally have 5 to 10 questions with her for her every single appointment, just because I wanted to make sure I had the information. And
Yeah.
so I would encourage that, people get informed and if necessary, advocate for yourself, learn how to speak up for yourself. And then the second thing that I would hope for, and I'm also a diversity and inclusion advocate,
Mhm.
is that healthcare providers get the training they need to
Mhm.
know how to deal with different communities of people.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to have a black provider who knows black women or who knows black men, but not every black person is going to have a black provider. It's just the math is just not going to add up, right? So white people, Hispanic people, Asian, everybody needs to be able to handle different kinds of patients
Mhm.
because we all are going to have to intersect at some point, right?
Mhm.
We're all going to have to get some kind of medical care, whether it's a nurse, an anesthesiologist, the actual, doctor. Every time, it cannot always be black people every time, and we shouldn't be the only ones carrying our own burdens.
Yeah.
So I would hope that those are the two things.
Yeah. Wow. We could have so many parts to this conversation. The time always runs out so fast, seemingly when you're having a very robust conversation. But I wholeheartedly agree with you, and we can just start and stop with the math doesn't add up because in every industry, there are underrepresentation issues. And so we'll just leave it there. And so it would be impossible for us to have people that look like us to care for us in every area of our lives.
Right.
And that's what, being a diversity and inclusion professional, it's all about ensuring that whatever industry we find ourselves in, that we are pushing
Uh-huh.
to have more representation for this very reason. So thank you so much for sharing and for being on the show today. And I want to ask you, how can people get in contact with you if they want to invite you to speak to their group, if they want to learn more about you and, invite you to their podcast or whatever, how can people get in contact with you?
Great question. I am on all social media platforms at Folashade, Folashade, Butler. I welcome, the DMs, the conversations. Feel free to reach out to me and, ask questions about what it is that I do. And, definitely invite me to come and share some information with your communities and your groups. Happy to do that as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I want to thank you personally again. And I want to thank you, our listening audience, for tuning in to another powerful episode of the Nicole Mason Show. I keep saying episode because it is just that it's an episode, right? I keep thinking, sounding like we're on TV, and that's coming. But to another powerful um, session here where we are focusing on you, our listening audience, and how you can be all that you have been created to be. Follow me across social media. I am Nicole S. Mason, ESQ, all across social media, and NicoleSMason.com, my website. And I invite you to join my Facebook group, Confidence Champions, where we are helping women to be confident in their call and their career. Have an awesome and amazing day.